to what I think is part 4 with Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman in this very exciting edition. And our next topic is around protecting places of worship, which has become a global concern in every part of the world. This is an issue. So I'd like to sort of openly ask Dave what his thoughts are about how we could be protecting better our places of worship, mainly because this isn't like a military facility or a hard place where you've got to get authorization to get in, you're pre-vetted. No, this is often what's referred to as a public place or a crowded place where we're inviting you in. Now, we're not searching you, we're not vetting you, we don't know who you are, maybe it's a different congregation every week. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we've been talking about sheepdog, house of worship, security team training. We've been doing this in America for almost a decade now. We've had over 100 of these. We had 9 people murdered in a church in Charleston, South Carolina. And before that, we were teaching this. We had 26 people murdered in a church in Texas recently, and we were teaching well before that. When we talk about preparation for violence in the house of worship, the first response, so many people's mind, is denial. Now, someone got to wrap a mind around it. It's very important. The DSM, the Bible of Psychiatry and Psychology, when it talks about PTSD, says whenever the cause of your trauma is human in nature, the degree of trauma is usually a more severe or long-lasting. Think about that. When the cause of your trauma is human in nature. So you tell me, is there a difference between these two scenarios? Scenario 1, a tornado hits a house while you're gone and puts your family in the hospital. How do you feel about that? Well, thank God they're alive, yeah? Scenario 2, criminals break in the house while you're gone and beat your family into hospital stay. Now you feel any different? Can we agree there's all the difference in the world? So understand that this is terribly important. Interpersonal human aggression is the most psychologically toxic, corrosive realm any human being will ever face. The fact that another human being is trying to harm you, to take your life away. Most people go a lifetime and never once encountered that. And you think the firefighter prepares for the fire, the diver prepares for the sea, the pilot prepares for the sky. How much more so must we prepare for this toxic realm of interpersonal human aggression? If it is so toxic, why do we do it? That others need not, that our children need not. But see, they can accept the fact that a fire could happen in their house of worship. When violence happens, they become irrational. So they say, well, don't you think God will protect us? Oh, well, why do we need to prepare for violence? God will protect us. Won't God protect you from fire? Why you need that fire exit sign? Yeah, why you need that fire extinguisher? Throw that fire exit sign away. Throw away that. Show us your faith. God will protect you from fire. You know it don't work that way. And God gave you the tools and the brains to protect yourself from fire. You don't use them, and people die from fire. Don't you blame God? And God gave you the brains and tools to protect yourself from violence. And if you don't use them and bad things happen, don't you blame God? And so this comparison to fire is very powerful. When we talk about schools, half the price of a modern school building goes into fire code. Fireproof material for the structure of the building versus cheapest alternative. Fireproof material for the interior furnishings versus cheapest alternative. Fire sprinkler system under pressure for the lifetime of the building. Electrical system brought up to fire code, double the electrical system to unwiring every fire exit, every fire alarm. We're not even talking about the fire alarm and that separate network of communications goes through our net. We're not even talking about the fire hydrant, the huge system of pipes run through our whole civilization. Not even counting them. Half the cost of the building could have gotten a fire code. Yet when it comes to violence, they don't want to do anything. And that's the denial. The fact that a fire could happen, I can accept that. The fact that somebody would come in and try to harm my children, that's just too hard. And their hard drive crashes, and they can't deal with it. So when you confront the possibility of violence in your house of worship or in your school, people go through stages: denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance. The first response is denial. God will protect us. It'll never happen here. Right. Next is anger at you because you've confronted their denial. Then comes bargaining. Well, could we do this? Could we do that? Now we're in a good place. Then comes acceptance. Okay, we're going to do these things. My house of worship has a a daycare and a preschool, and they come further up that path. You got the sheep and you got the sheepdog, and the truth is that everybody's somewhere on that line between the sheep and the sheepdog. And we can come further up there. Our little preschool keeps the doors locked and are prepared to compartmentalize right away. Shut the door, boom, we're secured. One of the things that we can do is have the doors locked all the time. Shut the door, boom, we're secured. 2 classrooms of children murdered in Sandy Hook Elementary School. They were sued for 2 things. Number one, no laminate film on the glass in the front door. Our door's locked, everybody's safe. He shut out the glass. It didn't even slow him down. And number 2, there was no way to lock the classroom door from the inside. You had to step in the hallway. Everybody in the hallway died. Put the key in the lock to lock the door. There's an answer being used everywhere. Have those doors locked all the time. Propped open, locked, shut, locked to your choice. Kick out the prop, shut the door, boom, we're secured that fast. And the glass, there's laminate film that we can put on that glass. You shoot holes in it, you beat on it, and get through that door no time soon. The laminate film is chump change. Any glass on the door, beside the door. House of worship, school, daycare. Remember, one of the things we fear is coming down the road, daycare master at Dunblane, Scotland. We had a kindergarten class wiped out. And in Belgium, a few years back, we had a daycare with a man with a butcher knife hacking and stabbing 12 little kids in a daycare in Belgium. China's had repeated daycare and kindergarten massacres. And so our daycare, our house of worship, our school, be prepared to shut the door when we're secured that fast. Now, our little house of worship, daycare and preschool, they all have pepper spray. And the insurance company said, great idea. Just be sure you give them a class and you document the class. It may not be viable everywhere. There's states in America where you can't have pepper spray, but the vast majority of the states you can. And you go a few steps from being a helpless victim to having pepper spray, having shot some of the inert, in a real life situation and in a rehearsal, and come further up those steps. But whether it's your house of worship, whether it's your home, whether it's your school, remember we spend all that money on fire preparation. We just spend a little money and a little time preparing for violence. Laminate film, any glass on the door, beside the door. This is the number 1 in our house of worship. Number 2, be able to internally compartmentalize. Shut the door, boom, we're secured that fast. The state of California passed the law last year that every classroom in California has got to be securable from the inside. Shut the door, turn the latch, boom, we're secured. A lot of times the fire guys get in the way. Fire guys say, oh, that violates the fire code. Well, the fire guys will learn they got to back off. And they are. And when we confront that up to the highest level, we get that done. When we talk about house of worship, every year in America, more people are murdered in faith-based property than the schools. And a lot of people murdered in schools worldwide. And so the need for it is there, the reality is there. In America, we've got a great organization, Faith-Based Security Network, FBSN. Foxtrot, Bravo, Sierra, November, America. Faith-Based Security Network, FBSNamerica.com. And we've got some really great stuff happening in that community about best practices and how we respond to it and the things we're going to put together. So 2 out of 3 incidents happen outside. In faith-based property, when something happens, 2 out of 3 happen in the parking lot outside. So at least half your resources need to be dedicated outside. We have a magnetic sign we put on the side of a vehicle, says church safety team. And you got a team of 4 guys that are in the parking lot constantly looking. Somebody needs gas, they ran out of gas, somebody locked out of their car, or their battery ran out on them. Well, we got a team of people ready to help you. We can recharge your battery, we'll put a gallon of gas in your car. But if somebody's trying to hurt people, we got 4 people out there that are ready to respond to whatever degree is appropriate. In America, that usually means armed response teams. But we tell people, if you're going to have armed response teams, you have to train them and hold them to a standard. And usually the standard is at least the same as law enforcement. Very often the standard is higher than the standard for law enforcement to be part of our team. And somebody says, I want to be on the team. You're welcome. We're so glad to have you here. But just because you have a concealed carry permit doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be able to be part of our team. We're going to be at the range next week. Let's see how you shoot. If you don't shoot up to standard, we'll bring you up to standard. And so we got this continuum of responses that begins with laminate film on the glass and keeping the doors locked, or be able to shut the door and lock it right away. As we come up that continuum, we got pepper spray and training and scenarios that we do with it. As further up the continuum, then we got the possibility of armed security. Armed cops in the parking lot are a very good thing. Now remember, unarmed people, they're the bravest of the brave. Unarmed security is doing a very difficult job without the primary tool. They're very brave, but they do not serve as a deterrent in most situations. The guy with the gun is not deterred by your unarmed security guard. One guy, an incident where Officer Greg Stevens had two armed guys roll out of the vehicle in the Draw the Prophet Muhammad Art Festival. There was an unarmed security guard there running like hell, fast as he could, took one bullet and survived. He told Officer Greg Stevens, my only purpose in life was to be your decoy. So the armed security guard, or the unarmed security guard, can be the decoy. They're brave. They're going to go towards the danger, and they'll give us just enough time to get out of there. But having that armed cop in the parking lot around the world is a deterrent, and it's something to be thinking about. And there's a continuum of responses. Now, faith really is a vital component in resiliency. My most recent book is on spiritual combat, and the one before that is Bulletproof Marriage, 90-day devotional. It was nominated. It was a finalist for the book award. It was really a big deal, and we're able to talk about that. And we talk about being the sheepdog under the authority of the great shepherd. But there's a model that I use for house of worship security, business security, and it's a simple model. It's Grossman's D's: deter, the greatest achievement, the crime that didn't happen. If we have somebody there that can shoot back, if we're prepared for the possibility, they're not going there, they're going to go somewhere else. What did this one cowardly mass murder in a Walmart in El Paso? It's not cowardly to go to places where they can't shoot back. Cowardly little gutless puke saying it's not cowardly. They're going to seek the place where people can't shoot back. They're going to seek the place that is not ready. You know, even if we don't have armed security, we got big guys that can go wherever they need to. We got somebody who comes in who's not a member of your congregation. Well, you got a big guy sitting behind him. And if he gets up in an appropriate time, if he pulls out a knife or gun, you pin their arms to the side and take him down. You've got somebody whose job it is to start praying with their eyes open and their head back. We teach our teams to pray with your eyes open. Bowing your head and closing your eyes is a modern concept. There's no place in the olden days in any faith. But then we talk about having a team that's ready to do what we call the starfish. What do you do with a lady who's screaming and waving her arms and charging the pulpit, assuming you're not charismatic, assuming that's not normal? Well, it's called the starfish. Everybody grabs a limb and walks off with them. And that doesn't just happen. It's got to be trained. And so this is a matter of training, designating teams, training the teams, coming up the continuum from unarmed response and on. And we know that the husband is divorced. Very often these attacks are family violence that comes to the house of worship. The one place where that boyfriend can find the victim is in the parking lot of their house of worship. The one place where the divorced father can find his children is in the parking lot of their house of worship. And so, you know, we got the father, the divorced father sits behind the family in the pew. Every child of a divorced family prays they'll get back together. Maybe they're going to get back together, but maybe not. So we've got a big guy sitting immediately behind him, whose job it is to get up and pin his arms to the side. And it's all about planning and preparation and having resources. It begins with somebody who's puts a hand on their shoulder, says, "No, man, you don't need to do that here." To somebody that pins their arms to the side, to somebody with pepper spray, all the way up to possibly armed response teams. Remember, it begins with understanding that the greater need is outside, understanding that 2 out of 3 happen outside, understanding that being able to compartmentalize ourselves, being able to shut that door to the nursery and lock that door to the daycare that fast. Those are all dynamics we can put in place ahead of time. But it all comes back to being the sheepdog and getting the right people there at the right time. Something that I'm a huge fan of here in America across America and across Canada is taken off. The fire alarm is an amazing piece of technology. The fire guy knows under stress, color vision goes out. Under stress, color vision goes out except red. We're designed to see red under stress. Blood, survival data. What color does a fire alarm go out the door? Blood red. There's science behind that. The fire guy knows under stress, fine motor control goes out. What I have to do, let them know there's fire. Grab and pull. These are gross motor skills we did under stress. Here's the magic in the system. There is a separate hardwired network from the fire alarm straight to the fire guy. In seconds, the fire guy knows there's a fire. He knows not just there's a fire in the building, where in the building it is, by what pull station was pulled, and they're rolling out the door in seconds. Violence has happened, we got to do it. Well, the answer to fire is always get out. Having the fire alarm on the way out's a good idea. The answer to violence is not always get out. And the answer needs to be on your body, and very often, your phone is the best answer. And we've got something we're putting in place nationwide. If you try to call 911, you dial 911, near vision's out, color vision's out, fine motor control shot. Just dialing 911 under extreme stress is extremely difficult. And then while gunshots are washing out the sound, you have to say who you are and where you are and what's happening. All of that is done by pulling the fire alarm that fast. Why can't we have something for violence like the fire guy does for fire? Well, we do. And it's a great program. It's going worldwide now, but it starts with downloading a free app, Hero 911. Go to the App Store in America and Canada, millions of apps, only one limited just to law enforcement, armed law enforcement. They'll ask for your credentials and they'll put you in the system. This is the receiver. The teacher has the transmitter. Now it's going in houses of worship. I paid to put it in my house of worship. I paid to put it in my grandkids' school in 2 different states. It's going in colleges. It's going in businesses. Everywhere we have a fire alarm, we got this. The teacher, let's say the teacher downloads an app, a big red button. Taps it, swipes it, taps it again. Look what it does. It speed dials 911. It gives everybody the location of the armed intruder. It lets everybody know we have an incident, who it is. It lets everybody in a 5-mile radius know we have an incident because the killer's off go mobile, and it goes immediately from the teacher's app to the cop's app. The cop is actually in seconds driving there. Now, 5 minutes later, all the king's horses and all the king's men will never put those kids back together again. It's the cop that gets there in the first 30 seconds that's going to save our kids' life and our way of life. So this system is in place. The entire state of Indiana has it in place. Counties and states. It's in over 40 states in America and over 1,000 odd locations. Now, like I said, the whole state of Indiana, but the cop has the receiver. The teacher has the transmitter, schoolguard.com, www.schoolguard.com. Cop has the receiver. The teacher taps it, swipes it, taps it again. It goes straight to every cop. A teacher in Indiana accidentally set it off. There's a little 6-minute tutorial. She didn't take the 6-minute tutorial and she set it off by accident. The first cop was to her in 30 seconds flat. Cop driving out to school, screeches the halt, puts it in park, runs in the door, 30 seconds flat. So just understand that it's about getting that response there on time, about having properly trained and equipped people to be there on time, but it comes back to being the sheepdog. And I've got a sheepdog kids book. It's really pretty deep. And I want to talk to you a minute about being the sheepdog and maybe wrap up with that. But before we do that, the sheepdogs have one new factor in the equation, wearing a mask. Now, hostility is greatly increased if somebody's wearing a mask. They're more vulnerable. We don't have to see their face. We can kill them far more easily. The mechanisms that restrain killing are reduced when they're wearing a mask. And when the attacker's wearing a mask, they've got anonymity, and if there's several of them, then they have group dynamics that empower killing. But given that we've still got to wear those masks, and there's a good reason for it, what can we do to reduce that hostility? Well, first understand this. You've got to talk in a calm, loud voice. Not everybody can do that. You've got to talk in a calm, loud voice. Do not shout. Shouting is an aggression sign. You don't want to communicate aggression. You want to communicate calm communications. One of the things the mask does is make people start shouting, and that's an aggression dynamic that immediately spirals out of control. So practice talking clearly without shouting and articulating well. If they can't hear you, then you can raise your voice. And it's normal. They've asked you to raise your voice and you speak a little louder. Now it's not an aggression sign. It's not a hostility sign. It's you doing what they asked you to do. Also, you've got to master a set of nonverbal skills. One of the best ones we have out there, hand to the chest and bow. The universal human dynamic, meet their eyes and nod your head. Just eye contact and nod the head. I've been able to use this on several occasions. Just a quick thank you or a hand here and thank you. These are powerful signals, but to make sure it's not mocking, the thumbs up doesn't mean around the world what it does in America. But more and more around the world, thumbs up has become a good sign. And those cultural dynamics are breaking down, and the thumbs up can be a very good sign. So you do this, that could be mocking, but you put the thumbs up with it. A salute. I pass cops in airports all the time. Give them a salute and a thumbs up. A salute can be mocking. Even the Heil Hitler thing. No. You give them the salute and a thumbs up. And that combination of gestures is very powerful and affirming. So just rehearse those gestures that you can do. This one is one of them. A very powerful one is just hand on the chest and a bow. Just meeting the eyes and nodding. Again, the salute and the thumbs up. These are all actions that we need to rehearse and we need to work on. And recognize the fact that we've greatly increased the probability of aggression. We need to have some active steps to prevent that. And having those de-escalation signals in place ahead of time, these are things that we can do and rehearse. You'll find yourself very quickly building a little repertoire of nonverbal signals that can depressurize the situation and communicate properly. My war was a Cold War. I came in 1974, got out in 98. Our great achievement was the war that never happened. The Russians were deterred. And we wore gas masks for days. And I tell you, wearing that mask for a long time is incredibly stressful. And we try to talk over radio through the mask. And the actual act of shouting was breaking down communications. What we had to do is talk in a normal voice and put the mic, the receiver, right up to the mask. And we talk in a normal voice. And people say, you don't have your mask on. Yes, I do, but I'm not shouting. I'm talking in a normal voice and put the mic right up to the mask. And we're able to communicate clearly that way. I've seen just experienced soldiers, disciplined soldiers who will rip that mask off because they can't tolerate it any longer. They have to be trained to wear it. We start with a little bit, a little more over time. Now we got politicians that just mandated everybody wear a mask. Well, there's second and third order effects going on there. And we got to be very careful how we handle that. And the one thing we can always control is ourselves. And that comes back to a critical concept. Internal locus of control. Identify all the things you can't control and let go of them. That's where a higher power comes in handy. You have a higher power to turn things over to. The national level, what other people are doing, you can't control that. There's only one thing in the universe you can control. It's yourself right now. If we give way to bitterness or cynicism or complacency or denial, that's the one thing we can control. And you give the world a victory with your own hand, and we will not give them that victory. So identify the things you can do and do them. Your tone of voice wearing a mask, your nonverbal signals. The things that we can use, we've got to use those things. The things we can't control, let go of them. Turn them over to higher power. And so, we've got to tie up with the idea of being the sheepdog. And the Sheepdog Children's Book has really got some pretty deep stuff in it. And there's a model I like to use. The wolf will use the lambs as human shields. The sheepdog is a human shield for the lambs. I got a photograph I'd love to use here. It's a It's just that there's so much going on in this photo. A bomb has gone off to over here on this side of the screen, and somebody's shooting into the crowd. Look, I'm looking that way. Huh? Oh, what's going on? Get out there! He's shooting at you. Look at the sheepdog striding toward the nearest. Look at that kid. I love that kid. That kid is a survivor. He's already moving, right? Here's the exact same scene a split second later. The flock is in full stampede. The sheepdog is striding toward the sound of the guns. That little guy, he knows good cover when he sees it. You know, the only thing better than a ceramic plate between you and the bad guy? 2 ceramic plates, camelback humor body between you and the bad guy. So we say in the Sheepdog Kids book, the wolf, the coward, and we got that guy in the front of the book there. The wolf, the coward, will use the lambs as human shields. The sheepdog is a human shield for the lambs. But got another photograph that I like to use. The young boy has been part of 4 kids being held hostage, literally being used as human shields. Cops got him out a window, and they're physically screening him with their bodies as they move him away from danger. Look at the little hand gripping that jacket, little face press in that jacket. Somewhere deep in the young man's soul, he knows at the moment of truth, the sheepdog will be there for him. We're in the middle of desperate, violent times. But every bad thing that happens is an opportunity to be there for them and our greatest need. It's the worst of times, it's the best of times. And I believe courage and honor will defeat hate and fear every time. I believe in truth, justice, and our way of life. I believe it'll defeat crime and violence in the end. I believe in the redeeming power of love. And I believe sheepdogs who love their fellow citizens enough to lay their life down for them represent one of the most powerful and beautiful forces in our civilization. You see that fire guy in the corner there? See the fire guy in yellow in the corner? You know what he's saying right now? Damn, I wish I was a cop. And so the sheep can be wary of the sheepdog. Indeed, the wolf is convinced some of the sheep that the sheepdog's a bad guy, and the wolf isn't the bad guy. The sheep can be wary of the sheepdog, but we like our sheep. We like our sheep. And we would have trouble living with ourselves. If somebody came to hurt our lambs, we would have trouble living with ourselves. So train. Prepare yourself, mind, body, and spirit. There's so many good books out there that we can build on and get deeper depths of knowledge. Seek the knowledge. Apply the lessons here. Sleep. The one thing you start doing tonight is get out there and start the day with a good night's sleep. Sleep-deprived people will say things and do things that we'll regret for the rest of life. Sleep deprivation takes years off our life. It makes us have bad quality life. We're not the spouse we want to be. We're not the parent we want to be. We're not the cop we want to be when we're sleep-deprived. Now, that's something you can control. We talked about sleep. Get a good, solid night's sleep in a truly dark room. Wear a sleep mask. Cut off caffeine shortly after lunch. Get that good, deep quality sleep out there, and control the things you can control. And in the end, that's yourself. Train and prepare, equip for the day that will come. And I want to wrap it up with a case study. In West Memphis, Tennessee, 2 white supremacist sovereign nation wackos, father and a son, murdered 2 cops on a traffic stop. And there was a dragnet hunting them down in their vehicle. They were in a white van. And a fish and game officer in Arkansas, this is in Arkansas, a fish and game officer by the name of Mike Neal, drove 90 miles an hour for almost an hour to get to that location. There's a dragnet everywhere trying to find these 2. And Mike Neal pulls into the Walmart, and here's these 2 idiots just went to Walmart and went shopping. They got on with their lives. And the sheriff and a deputy are hiding behind a vehicle as these 2 people are leaning out the window shooting at them. And so Officer Mike Neal, it's caught on camera. He 40 miles an hour slams into the vehicle with his vehicle to save the lives of these 2 people trapped behind this vehicle being shot at. And he has his rifle, his an automatic rifle right here, and he picks up his rifle and fires through the screen and kills those 2 individuals right there. He received our nation's highest award for valor. He's received many, many awards. But Mike Neal told me, he said, I'm the kind of guy other cops make fun of. He said, they don't make fun of me no more. Be the kind of guy that's dedicated to your profession. Now, Officer Mike Neal is now Sheriff Mike Neal. He's been elected as the sheriff in his county, and his men absolutely respect him deeply and profoundly. And he leads by example, and there's some magnificent things to be happening out there. But those words stick in my head. I'm the kind of cop every cop's make fun of. They don't make fun of me no more. We got that model of this Officer Tackleberry that goes too far over the top. Well, there are limits and reasonable restraints. But believe in who you are, believe in what you do. Train and prepare yourself. And so it's been an honor to be on board with you, John, and your international group of sheepdogs who are dedicated to protecting their flocks. And it's been my honor to just make a small contribution to the big work that you're doing across the board. Is there any other way that we can be of service at this point in time before we kind of wrap it up?
Look, I think we've had so many parts to today, and I've taken up so much of your time. I think we'll wrap it up for today. However, I'm going to take you up on that last statement you made, and I'm going to have a chat with the team about how we can, I guess, use your wisdom and experience and knowledge and enthusiasm and passion for further contributions. So for those viewing out there, it's a massive thank you for Colonel Grossman. There's so much that we've had absorbed over this multi-part edition. And I'm incredibly thankful for your time. So let's wrap it up for today. So I'm John Cowling, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the International Security Journal for industry updates and notifications of future episodes in our Leaders in Security video series. Thank you very much.